energy, all this time, all this money. We expect a return. And the thing is, you ladies, the juice is not worth the squeeze right now.
Going to do the pursuing. You will not have to pursue him.
Bad advice. Too many people get not.
Well, single women keep women single, and that's the thing. These women preach like, this is what you should do. Know your worth and blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing is, honey, you don't even know your worth. You have an inflated sense of self. You have an inflated sense of ego. Oh, and if you don't notice in the video today, we have a new sign. Shout out to neonsigns.com for hooking your boy up. Send it to me. Link in the description so you can go check out their website. Bro, they just hit me up and they're like, let's make a neon sign. I was like, bro, absolutely. Bro, it's sick. I don't have any treats for Loki this morning because he had a little vomit on his bed this morning. So I think he has.
The majority of the money for the business that I've been dreaming of for years. I even offered to help him look for financial assistance or budgeting tips. Now that I think of it, that was kind of petty, but I honestly didn't mean it that way. He did not take it well. Matt accused me of being selfish, of valuing my non-existent hobby over helping my own brother and future niece or nephew. He said I didn't understand the stress that he was under, and to make matters worse, our parents have sided with him. Mom says that family should come first, and that Grandpa would have wanted me to help out. Oh, I feel like the bad guy. I didn't ask for this money, and I didn't want to destroy my relationship with my brother. But this is the first time in my life that I feel like I could actually follow a dream of mine, and I don't want to give that up. OP, maybe the reason why your grandpa didn't leave the money to your brother or your parents has nothing to do with the fact that you spent more time with them and has everything to do with the fact that your family is entitled. It's your money. Simple, easy, obvious. End of discussion. It's your money. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. It's your money. Spend it the way you want to spend it. And if your mom and dad are so worried about your little brother, then they can loan him the $30K. Also, isn't it interesting, awfully coincidental, you might say, that your brother never asked for assistance before? He never mentioned the debt or the pressure or the struggles that he's been dealing with until after he finds out that you made $50K. Then all of a sudden, woe is me. Oh, if only I had $30,000, my life would be instantly fixed. What a coincidence. Am I the butthole for telling my wife that I'm done with her emergency calls and leaving her stranded? I'm a 32-year-old man, and I've been married to my wife, who's 29 for 4 years. We have a 3-year-old son. She's not a bad person, but she's constantly in a state of chaos, and every little thing becomes my problem. No exaggeration, I get these emergency calls multiple times a week. Flat tire? Call me at work. Forgot her wallet? Call me. Grocery store out of her favorite oat milk? Blow up my phone like the world's ending. It's relentless. I work full-time and do my fair share at home with our son. Diaper duty, bedtime stories, cooking, cleaning, you name it. These crises are killing me. I've told her before that unless it's a real emergency, like someone bleeding or stuck on a highway at night, she needs to figure it out. I don't have the bandwidth to drop everything constantly. The last straw came 2 days ago. I had to take my son to the doctor because he had an ear infection, and I was already running on fumes. While I'm in the waiting room with a fussy toddler, she calls me in a panic because she locked herself out of her car in front of the Target 5 minutes from home. I told her, I can't leave. You'll have to call someone to pop the window. She freaked out, saying that would cost too much, she didn't bring enough cash, and I was being unreasonable. I stayed firm, said she needed to figure it out, and hung up. I got home later, she was furious. She said the guy charged her $150 and I should have come home to help because she didn't think to grab her wallet. I told her point blank, I'm done rescuing you from things that you can easily handle. You need to stop acting like everything's a disaster. Now she's barely speaking to me, acting like I'm the villain for not dropping everything for her again. My brother thinks that I was harsh, but my mom said that I was right to set boundaries. Am I the butthole for leaving her stranded? OP, sounds like you're taking care of 2 toddlers. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 butthole. I'm giving your older toddler 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for threatening to sue both the school and the family of my daughter's bully? I'm a 30-year-old man and my husband is 33. We have an 11-year-old daughter who's been going through severe bullying at school. It just keeps getting worse. It started off with just name calling, but it's gotten worse over the past few weeks. For context, she's adopted, which is something we've always been open about and celebrated as part of her story. Recently, some kids found out about her adoption and started saying horrible things, telling her stuff like her birth mother didn't want her. They tell her that she's unwanted and they tell her she's a reject, which is not the case. Her mother loved her very much to the point that she literally gave her life for her so she could be here. A few days ago, my daughter came home in tears with her hair butchered. Her bullies had cut off 2 inches of her ponytail while in class, all while taunting her, calling her names, and laughing at her reaction. They'll follow her through the halls to make fun
I'd
of
smack
her.
the fuck
on a
out of the
regular
kid and beat the fuck out of the parents.
My husband and I have
Right.
been in touch with the school about the bullying more times than I can count. I emailed, called, even showed up in person to speak with the teachers and the principal. But all I got were empty promises that they'd look into it. Nothing's changed, and my daughter's mental health has taken a hit. She's anxious, struggling to sleep, and now begs us not to send her to school. Finally, out of frustration and feeling like no one was taking this seriously, we reached out to a lawyer to explore legal action against both the school and the bully's family. Only when the school and the parents learned that we were considering legal action did they start to act. Suddenly,
Oh, imagine
the
that.
school calls me to say that they're moving the bully out of my daughter's class and claim they
Nah,
had
nah.
a talk with her. The
No,
girl's
no, no, no.
parents
Fuck you. Fuck
saying
them.
they talked to their daughter and promised it would stop. But honestly, I don't believe them. It feels like they're all saying this just to get me to back off and avoid the legal consequences. I worry that once the dust settles, things will go right back to how they were, and my daughter will still be dealing with this. My family thinks that I should give the school and parents a chance now
Nah.
that they've finally taken action.
Nah,
but
fuck them.
I feel like it's all for show.
And fuck them
So,
schools.
am I the
They
butthole
do the
for
same
moving
thing to fucking every
legal
kid,
action,
bro.
Even though the school
Mhm.
and the bully's parents
And
now
then if
claim
fucking
they're
that kid
ending it,
fucking retaliates and does anything, they fucking get in trouble.
0 out of 5
Mhm.
buttholes. I
No,
hope
fuck
you
that
nail
school. Fuck them
the
parents.
whole
Fuck
law.
that kid.
The bullies and everyone protecting the bullies, 4 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for letting my kids loot my brother's house to prove my point? My brother and his family came for a visit last month. My kids and I play with Lego, and we have fun leaving little dioramas around my house. Just silly stuff, like a fight between Iron Man and Darth Vader on the Loot Llama. It's just our way of leaving Easter eggs around the house. My nephew really liked them and decided to take a few home. When we noticed they were missing, I asked my brother to bring them back. He said that it was just kids being kids and that he would take them back the next time we saw each other. I saw him for coffee and I reminded him beforehand that I wanted all our stuff back. He forgot to bring the toys. Okay, game on. We went over to his place for a barbecue. I told my kids that unless all our stuff was returned to us when we got there, literally anything in his house was fair game. And like the godless barbarians that my kids are, they went to town. When we left, I don't think there were any remotes, small electronics, or beer mugs
Took the
left in
fucking remotes, bro. Fucking
Actually-
menaces, bro. Everything's fair game.
Bro.
Got you. I'm gonna take the batteries out the remote, bro. Like, what the
ignored
fuck?
When I got home, I returned his calls. He said that a bunch of stuff was missing from his house. I said that I would check with the kids. He said that I effing well knew what happened and that he wanted all of his stuff back. I said that I would box it up and return it the next time that we saw each other, as long as we got our Legos back. He was at my house with the Lego later that evening. He had even accidentally included stuff that wasn't ours. I returned all the stolen stuff to him. I told him that this is how we'd be dealing with his kids in the future. He's pissed off that he had to make a special trip to return my stuff. My parents think that there's a huge difference between an 8-year-old taking Lego minifigures and a couple of teenagers pillaging their uncle's house. Yeah, there is a difference. The first is theft, and the second is justice. Obi, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your brother 1 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my sister that I hope her husband cheats on her after she ruined my wedding dress? I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I've been engaged for about a year. I'm getting married in 3 months. Like many brides, my wedding dress is a big deal to me. I spent months picking it out, and it cost more than I care to admit. It's a gorgeous custom-made gown that I was keeping at my mom's house because I wanted to avoid any accidents at home. I have a dog who sheds like crazy. My sister, who's 34, recently had some sort of life-changing epiphany and decided that she's done with fast fashion and wants to live a more eco-conscious lifestyle. Cool, right? Except she's taken it to a weird level, constantly shaming me and others about our choices, like buying new clothes instead of thrifted. She's also become super into DIY projects, most of which end up looking like a Pinterest fail, but whatever, I wasn't going to say anything. Fast forward to last weekend. I stopped by my mom's house to check on the dress and made sure that everything was fine. When I opened the garment bag, my heart legit stopped. My sister, in all her do-it-yourself glory, had dyed my wedding dress. Apparently, she thought the white was too traditional and boring, and decided to upcycle it by dip dyeing the bottom half in this hideous tie-dye rainbow pattern. Her words, "I made it more fun and unique. You'll stand out." I lost it. I screamed at her, and she just stood there acting like I was being overdramatic. She kept saying that she was just trying to help and that it's just a dress. I told her she's a selfish psycho and to never speak to me again. Then, and this is where I might be the butthole, I said, "I hope your husband gets so sick of your controlling, self-righteous BS that he cheats on you." She started crying and called me a bunch of names, saying that I crossed the line. Now my mom is mad at me, saying my sister was only trying to do something nice, and that I didn't need to take it that far. She's insisting I apologize for the cheating comment, but I feel like I was justified in saying it. My fiance thinks my sister is nuts, but even he raised an eyebrow at that last comment and said that I might have gone too far. Am I the butthole for saying what I said, or is my sister just the worst? Alright,
No,
I might
fuck
get back
people,
from
bro.
this in the comments, but
Tired of
honestly, this
people
does kind of feel like an
thinking they can
everyone's
do whatever the
toughest
fuck they
situation.
goddamn
Because,
fucking
yeah, the
please.
sister does deserve some kind of punishment, but the appropriate response here is to sue her for the dress and to not invite her to the wedding, or if she gets married to, ruin her wedding dress, because that would be fitting justice. But, wishing that on someone to ruin their marriage is, kind of stooping pretty low there. I'm not really sure if I could justify that, OP. So I'm giving your sister 2 out of 5 buttholes. What she did was just bonkers. This genuinely feels like sabotage to me. Like she intentionally did it to ruin your wedding and to ruin your day. But I think I'll give you 1 out of 5 buttholes for kind of taking it to a really nasty place. But, you guys might disagree with me. If you think OP's in the clear, I wouldn't really argue with you on that one. Am I the butthole for calling the police on my brother after he hit his girlfriend at a family dinner? I was having a family dinner at my house last weekend. My brother brought his girlfriend, who's been with him for about a year. We've never been super close, but I always try to include him in family events. During dinner, they started arguing over something small. What show to watch later, I think. It quickly escalated, and my brother snapped. He stood up, yelled at her, and then slapped her across the face. Everyone was shocked, but no one did anything. His girlfriend was clearly
Obviously
terrified.
not, because if he doesn't
and
give a
my
fuck about
parents
her
were
face, you
freaking
know
out.
he don't give a fuck about
My
your
brother was
face.
just pressed. I immediately took his girlfriend into another
Just saying.
door and called the cops. My brother was arrested, and now my entire family is furious with me. They're saying I ruined his life, that it was a private matter, and that I should have stayed out of it. I would love to see your parents' reaction if you use that same logic on them. Like, you slap your mom across the face, and what are they supposed to do? Call the cops? Well, that would just be completely unnecessary because it's a private matter and the cops should stay out of it. Yeah, right, man. This is a literal crime, and if your brother hadn't committed a crime, then the cops wouldn't have arrested him. Simple as that. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your brother 4 out of 5 buttholes. That was r/am I the butthole.
I don't care nowadays, though.
Podcast where I publish the exact same
Women
episode.
some women deserve to be hit.
Because I put out newer videos
I'm not
every
saying it's right.
welcome to r/confession.
But you need a little bit of the backstory so you can know.
We're the world's
Oh,
dumbest.
she was doing this, and this, and then she fucking hit him
I
and
was
kept putting her
addicted
hands on him for 3 hours? And then he fucking knocked her out? Alright.
Staring at the illustrations
Okay.
and photos, and of course,
It's called
smelling the
equality.
books. However,
Equal
I could
rights,
only
equal fights.
buy books from my local library because my parents could barely afford food for us, let alone buying fancy books.
Bro, after Lorana, bro,
As
I'm not
the kids
putting
and
up with that
teenagers
shit,
section
dude.
of the library. One day, I couldn't get there in time, so I only had about half an hour to
You
spend
wanna
there.
try to act like a man and be
That,
tough and
but
shit,
also
bro?
had
I'll
a
fucking,
brand new
okay.
400-page encyclopedia waiting for me on the shelf. It was love at first sight. I felt awful because I knew that I couldn't do much reading in such a little time. And then there was this lovely smelling book with a montage of astronauts, cars, and magnificent landscapes on the front cover just begging me to read it. Sadly, the library wouldn't let you borrow encyclopedias back then, and time was ticking. I thought about just stealing it, but the book was enormous, and I wasn't. I wasn't a bad boy either, I told myself. But what if I just take a few pages? That surely won't hurt anyone, and no one will notice it's missing. So that's what I did. The book was binded in such a way that I could carefully rip out about 5 pages in one go. I wrapped the pages around my foot, slipped them into my socks, covered my socks with my pants, and just casually walked out. The first time, I actually said, "Thank you very much," with a big smile to the librarian, and she gave me that awkward, "What the heck are you talking about?" look. My 10-year-old mind quickly realized how stupid I was to say that, and that maybe even I could go to jail for this. So I just rushed out, sweating and with my heart jumping out of my chest. Originally, I wanted to return the pages at the next visit to the library, but as I was sitting on my bed at home, reading about the wildlife in Africa, the only content I had at that time, I came up with a master plan of repeating this process until I got every page. And
Bruh.
my plan worked. Not just that, but I improved on my technique. I
Bruh.
wrapped pages around my feet, my arms, and I also kept a stack on my back, tucked carefully in my pants. I could get about
Bruh.
20 to 25 pages in just one day. I remember walking slowly like a robot on my way out, as I didn't want to crush the pages too much. I couldn't bend in any direction because the pages were holding my limbs tight. After several visits to the library, the encyclopedia began to visibly shrink. So, the photocopier and replaced the missing pages with blank ones. My last visit was the sketchiest because I had to take the trophy somehow. By trophy, I mean the hardcover with the astronauts on it. There was no way to wrap it up like I did with the pages, and it was too big to hide it anywhere on me. I was so close to victory, I just couldn't let it go. I had the shiny cover in its full glory in my hand. I put it under my t-shirt on my back. I put my hands in my pocket, trying to hold the cover with my elbows. I was scared to the bone that they would catch me and send me to jail. I checked my reflection in the window. I looked like a terrified Lady Gaga with fake shoulder pads. I was also shameless by this time, and I knew that I was an awful person. It was nearly 5 o'clock, and every library goer left. The librarians were doing their closing up routine, so the front desk was abandoned. I just walked out without anyone noticing me. I glued all the pages and cover together at home. The book was nowhere near as majestic as before, but I loved it anyways. I've never stolen anything else in my life, and I'm so sorry for this. OP, I genuinely can't tell if this epic heist is genius or idiotic. Like, why couldn't you have just stolen it like a normal person, which is just stuff it in your backpack and then wait until the coast is clear and make a run for it? Our next Reddit post is from Short Spare. I visit my grandparents overseas pretty often, and every time I go, I get sick. I can count the number of taxi cabs I've spewed vomit in the back seat of on the way to the hospital, because that number is precisely equal to the number of times that I visited my grandparents. So I'm sick, and I wake up in the middle of the night extremely hungry. So I decide to go wake up my grandfather to ask him to help make me something to eat. I know, noble of me. It's at this point that I believe God attempted to send me a warning. a random memory resurfaces right as I'm about to open my grandpa's bedroom door. Last night, my grandmother randomly mentioned, with more than a note of excitement, that she was going to sleep in my grandfather's room. Well, okay, I was 12 and didn't think much of it. I was a stupid 12-year-old who didn't respect privacy, and I opened the door. This memory is scorched into
Bruh.
my brain. My grandfather and my grandmother
Going to
delivered
town.
the most insane front shots, missionary to my poor grandmother, who a few hours ago was feeding me medicine. The technique, my God, and the noises. I was there for a good 5 seconds maybe before my grandpa realized I was there and promptly flipped off of my grandmother like nothing happened, saying something casual like, "Hey buddy, close the door. Be there in a minute."
Let me finish. You're not blue balling me, little cuck.
Grandpa's a fucking legend.
Bro does not give a fuck.
Well, nothing. I ate my food, shut my mouth, and tried to go back to sleep. My grandfather passed away a few years ago, and unfortunately, this is my most vivid memory of him. This was absolutely harrowing to witness at 12 then, but now I think it's kind of funny. I hope you're having a good time in the afterlife, Grandpa. Just, please, good as you were having that night. Nobody needs to hear those noises, man. Anyway, I hereby vow and warn you all to always knock before entering doors, lest you intrude upon someone's privacy and permanently scar yourself. This post from Vegetable Switch down in the comments. I walked in on my parents 69ing when I was about 10. My mom spit my dad out and yelled at me to close the door.
Bruh.
And this story from Bradbo. I walked in on my parents at 9 years old. My mom's legs behind her head, and my dad just destroying her. I started to cry and threw up. 35 years later, I still see it. Reliving this memory, I may have to start drinking again.
I start
I did a
drinking
bad
it.
thing. I have to live with it. 12 years ago, when I was 18, I visited my cousin's home for vacation like I usually do every year. Next to this house, there was this woman who lived with her husband and 2 daughters. Just like always, we usually spent a lot of our time at her place playing cards and watching movies. She was so kind and beautiful. I loved her. She was also pretty cool around me. One day, while my cousins were out, I went to her house and found her alone doing chores. We talked, and she opened up about her life. She was actually venting to me, but my focus was on her body. Knowing that she was vulnerable at that moment, I started to flirt with her. Assuming that she wouldn't have any objection, I started to caress her back. And then, in no time, I hugged and kissed her. At first, she stood there surprised, but since I didn't stop, she kissed me back. Afterwards, we ended up doing it. The whole thing just happened in under 15 minutes. Yeah, I suck. And I'm 100% sure that I didn't satisfy her. I left and went to my cousin's house. The more I thought about what just happened, the more I panicked, fearing her husband would find out. Next day, she acted as if nothing had happened. So when I got the chance, I asked about it. And she said that it was a one-time thing, and I'm still a teenager, and I don't have to worry because she's not going to tell anyone, and she told me to do the same, which relieved me. I stayed there for 2 more weeks before returning home. Then I got busy with college, and I lost touch with them. The last time I saw her was at her daughter's wedding. We talked a little, and then she got busy with other guests. 2 years later, I learned from my mother that she committed suicide. I called my cousin and talked about the details, and he told me that her husband was abusive to her mentally and physically, and that she had been struggling for years, and he had seen her crying and complaining about her life to my aunt. I was devastated, regretting that I'd only focused on my desires instead of her pain. I don't even know why she cooperated with my advances. Maybe out of pity. I'm not sure. But thinking back about that day, I might have noticed some bruises under her dress. Everything's a blur now, and I'm worried that my brain is intentionally blocking the images. And the last time I met her at the wedding, she didn't look happy, but tired. I even stalked her daughter on Facebook to look through her old wedding photos to see if she looked happy. There were rumors that her husband was involved in her death, especially since he remarried just 3 months into her death. I should have noticed the signs. I've seen him being a sore loser and exhibit anger after losing a card game, even when there's nothing at stake. I've seen him fighting with his daughter because she had a boyfriend. I knew both of his daughters were terrified of him, but that's pretty much normalized in my country. One time, he and I got into a political argument. I rebutted all of his points, and he became so furious and serious that his wife had to intervene to protect me. But he was funny every other time and won't hesitate to spend money for food and other items when I'm around. I should have done something. I don't know what, but something that would have kept her alive. I've kept this secret for years, even from my present psychiatrist. I'm ashamed of myself and thought that this is better than to keep it hidden. You know, I kind of feel like this would be a decent plot to a movie where an 18-year-old boy has a brief affair with a married woman, and then he suspects the husband of killing the woman, so he investigates the husband to eventually avenge her murder. I'm not saying that OP should do that. I'm just saying he's in quite an interesting predicament here. Our next Reddit post is from On My Way Today. The year is 2011, and I'm in year 7, my first year in high school.
How do I...
And into a class where I literally knew only one person, and she and I never spoke. It's a few months into the year, and I'm sitting in math class,
How do I
and
look
this
through the
girl
Shumascope?
who I just couldn't stand, and
R3.
also bullied me on and
On
off,
keyboard.
just kept interrupting for the
Don't
stupidest
know on
things.
keyboard.
And just partway through the lesson, the teacher tells us to leave our things in the classroom so we can go to the computer lab, and I was the last to leave the classroom. Note that most kids hid their iPods under their pencil cases during class so they could get away with using it, and I knew for a fact that she left hers there. I don't know what possessed me to steal her iPod, but I did, and she never found out. But now I leave school, and her iPods are still in my short pocket. Nobody knows what I've done. The girl thinks that one of the guys was screwing with her and doesn't suspect me at all. The one defining feature of her iPod was the back was completely covered in small circular stickers. Hers had gotten so worn down that they had almost fused with the device. So I did what I could and scrubbed those stickers off until it looked brand new. I didn't use it at all, in fear of my mom seeing it and screaming at me for being a thief. So it just sat in my room, gathering dust, until about a month later, I overhear the annoying girl asking some people if they know anyone selling an iPod. 1 week later, and I made $150 by selling a girl her own iPod that I had just factory reset and scrubbed down. Our next Reddit post is from Vice Canada. I used to work as a technical program manager at an offshore office for a Fortune 500. Our team had about 30 people at its peak.
Bitch got on his nerves enough to store shit and then re.
In 2023, the company laid off the entire office. I was asked to stay on as the last person to handle all the paperwork, return tasks, and equipment before they finally fully shut things down. After wrapping up my tasks, I waited for months without hearing anything from the company. No emails, no updates, just silence. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I sold all the office equipment on the black market. Nearly 60 MacBook Pros, around 100 ultra-sharp monitors, over 100 Herman Miller chairs, plus desks, TVs, and other office gear. It's been over a year now, and still no word from the company, so I think I'm in the clear. I checked OP's post history, and unfortunately, he doesn't list how much he made, but I think you could probably reasonably sell, let me see, I'm pulling a calculator. You could probably sell a MacBook Pro, a brand new MacBook Pro for like $500 pretty quickly. So 60 of those, that comes out to $30K. This is just a guess, right? I have no evidence for this, but based on my speculation, OP probably cleared, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 from this, so dang. Our next Reddit post is from Sexy Sissy. About 2 years ago, I saved my partner from getting hit by a drunk driver. When I say saved, I mean I drunkenly tripped on a manhole cover and fell over with my arms out. And with my arms out, I pushed my partner out of the way of a car, which still hit me. My partner says that moment was when she fell in love with me. Whenever she visited me in the hospital, I was on drugs due to mental health stuff, and she called me cute in the hospital bed. Hey man, saving a life is saving a life, no matter how you do it. I say take the credit for it, and don't tell anyone the truth. Our next Reddit post is from Throwaway. I'm aroused by Vor, and it's draining on my mental health. For those who don't know, Vor is like the imagined fetish of being eaten by someone or eating someone else. I think my earliest memory was in kindergarten when I imagined what it would be like to get eaten by my teacher and feeling really weird because of it. After that, it only got more solidified by things like the beginning scene of Men in Black 2 or various scenes in different cartoons. And now, here I am, a young adult who gets turned on by the idea of being swallowed by hot women. What the F? The thing that's starting to get to me is like, some of the things I like are on a psychopathic level. People being treated like their lives don't matter is a common trope, and it makes my heart burn with anger and disgust. But lo and behold, I also love it. It's just like, why did it have to be me? Why couldn't I just be turned on by something normal? It's also getting to me that it feels like I'm keeping a secret from my girlfriend. We've been dating for about 2 years now, and while she knows that I find stomachs attractive, she has no idea that I have this fetish. And I feel like I'm deceiving her for letting her think that I'm a normal person. Part of me wants to tell her and hopes that I can move past this, but like, how could she possibly understand, let alone accept why I'm like this? I don't know, man. I'm just kind of worn out by this. Yeah, that's rough, OP. It seems like it's really eating you up.
Bro.
So hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/best of Redditor updates, where OP turns the tables on a Karen. Our next Reddit post comes from r/Tales from Retail. It's 2 p.m. today, and I'm starving. I'm just coming back from the fast food joint down the street, and I'm walking towards the break room with my food in hand, hoping to enjoy a quiet, peaceful lunch to re-energize myself so I can continue dealing with the endless waves of snarky customers that my workplace is notorious for attracting. As I'm getting to the door, this blonde woman, around 50, begins to follow me, and she begins to do that noise that's so annoying. She continues 3 or so times, but I ignore her since, you know, I'm not an epic dog or something. After she realizes that I'm not going to react to her summons, the conversation goes a little something like this. Excuse me. Oh, sorry ma'am, I'm on break right now, but let me get one of the other employees to help you out. At this point, I begin to reach for my walkie-talkie to call someone to the aisle for help, but she isn't having any of it. What? I will not be treated like this. I'm a valued customer, and I demand to be treated as such. You will provide your service to me right now, and that is that. No questions asked. Ma'am, I'd be happy to help you, but my lunch break is only 30 minutes, and I don't give a shit. I don't care if you're starving. The customer always comes first. At this point, I didn't even retaliate. I just turned around and ignored her as I walked into the break room with my key and shut the door behind me. She began to angrily pound on the door for a few seconds until she finally stopped, presumably because a coworker came to the rescue. I later found out that she complained to the manager, and of course, the manager simply brown-nosed her and told her that I would be dealt with as an employee should never refuse service to a customer, even if they're on break. Then, the next day, OP posted an update. I decided to follow your guys' advice, and I called corporate to complain that I was basically reprimanded for following policy and refusing service to a customer during my break. Of course, corporate immediately sided with me, and everything seemed like it was going to be fixed and my name would be cleared. But no, of course not. In the world of retail, things aren't always so clear-cut. Lo and behold, there's another factor here. That effing woman apparently called corporate herself and basically demanded that I be fired for being rude to her. Now, the thing is, this store has cameras, and turns out they investigated. And since no audio is available, the only thing they saw was me walking away from the woman and slamming the break room door behind me. Now, you'd think that's bad enough, right? Wrong. Guess what? I asked the supervisor, a longtime buddy of mine, to check the punch-in sheet, just out of curiosity. Guess what? Someone deleted my break time that was logged into the system. So now, not only am I being accused of refusing service to a customer, but I'm also being accused of not clocking out and leaving the premises to get food. What the F? Was this a computer error, or did the manager really do this on purpose to save his own hide? Or does he simply not like me? But Reddit, here's the thing. I will not lay down and just die. I will fight this thing to the end, even if right now it seems like I have no allies. Then, one day later, OP posted an update. I woke up bright and early and made a call to corporate. My plan here was simply to state that I needed my issue investigated further, even if it seemed like there was no problem on their end. As expected, the person on the other end of the phone wasn't super cooperative. But then I said the magic word, subpoena. As soon as I made that calm, yet firm threat, the person immediately told me to hold for a second. He got his supervisor on the line, and I explained the situation to them again. He assured me that he would look into this matter. Oh, and I also asked for a way to email the president of the company, and I sent an email to him explaining my situation as well. So that was that. But I didn't stop there. See, I had another plan. I was going to catch my manager myself red-handed. You know, just in case the corporate guys were goofs. So I walk into work and go to the manager's office. The conversation goes like this. I have to speak with you about something really important. Can it wait? I need to finish looking over these documents before 12. No, it can't wait. My other supervisor told me that my clock in and clock out time from lunch 3 days ago was not in the log. I know that I punched out and in. So what happened? Huh. Weird. I'll look into that for you, alright? Oh, no need. I already called corporate, and they said they'd look into it personally. At this point, I had a huge grin on my face. Felt good, man. Real good. The manager audibly gulps at this point. You know, that wasn't really necessary. You could have come to me about this first. Oh, I know, but I just didn't want to waste your time, seeing as how you're so busy and all. You have more important things to do, like look over documents. At this point, he visibly begins to get annoyed by my attitude and my sarcastic tone. I'm just enjoying it way too much. Now listen, OP, I'm really not liking your tone right now. I apologize. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a heads up in case corporate asks you any questions. You know how they are. Now, some of you might be thinking why I said that last part. Because I had a small suspicion that since he's a recently made manager, only 3 months in, he probably didn't know that the system logs all deletions and re-entries. So, what was my end game here? Simple. I was hoping that due to this threat about corporate, he would simply go back and add my times back into the log. And guess what? He did just that. A couple of minutes after our conversation, he comes up to me and says, OP, I found out what the problem was. There was a glitch in our system, and apparently it didn't register your punches. But everything's fixed now. Your log time should be there. Wow, thanks. I appreciate it. No problem. But wait, there's more. Just a couple of hours into my shift, I see the manager leaving the store, angrily slamming the manager's office door on his way out. When I asked my supervisor buddy what happened, the conversation went like this. Dude, why is he so angry? I don't know. He was with corporate on the phone for a few minutes, and then he asked me why I told you the log times were missing. Hold up, let me find out. So my supervisor runs to the front doors to catch up with my manager. We talk for a while outside, after which my manager gets into his car and angrily drives off. Then my supervisor comes back inside, walks up to me and says, Dude, I'm sorry to tell you this, but he's screwed. Corporate found evidence of data tampering in the punch-in log. Apparently, he deleted your times yesterday and added them back today this morning to cover his butt. Wow. Yep, How did he not know about the system's ability to track that stuff? I don't know, man. So there's that. He probably will get fired, and I'll probably keep my job. Our next Reddit post comes from r/relationships. I've been with my boyfriend, John, for 5 years. We have a pretty awesome relationship. Great communication, fun, easygoing, with good chemistry. We've always talked about getting married, and I've had no doubts that we would be getting engaged very soon. Recently, John, myself, John's closest friend and his girlfriend went on a trip to Vegas for several days. We had a great time, all four of us, and on our last night there, John told us he wanted to go to the Bellagio fountains to see them before we had to leave. Everyone was up for it. We went for a nice dinner beforehand and then began watching the fountains and the music came on. It was really romantic, and I was really enjoying myself. And that's when John grabbed my wrist. He turned me towards him, and I saw that he was sweating profusely. Like, his face was bright red, and he looked like he was about to pass out from trembling so hard. The whole time, it looked like he was about to say something, but he never did. He just informed all of us that he wasn't feeling well and wanted to go back to the hotel. My friends looked really puzzled, and were whispering into each other's ears all the way back to the hotel. I kept asking John if he was okay, but he just said that he probably had too much to drink. We've been back for a couple of weeks, and he's been acting really distant and cold. I honestly knew something weird was up that night in Vegas, so I called up John's friend's girlfriend, who I'm fairly close to, and I asked her if she knew what was going on with John, since he had been at their place a lot this past week instead of coming home. Eventually, she spilled the beans and told me that he had plans of proposing to me that night at the fountains, but then didn't. That's why the two of them had been acting so confused. I kept grilling her, and she also told me that John had told his friend that it didn't feel right. She made me promise not to tell John that I know because she didn't want anyone to be upset with her. I'm feeling sick to my stomach. We live together, and he's been spending all of his time at his friend's house or at his parents' place since we got back. He barely calls me or responds to my texts anymore. I don't know what happened that night, but I feel like he's about to end things. Then, the next day, OP posted an update. I apologize for not updating sooner, but a lot has happened. So, John came home last night around 11:30 as I was watching TV in our bedroom. He came in and looked like absolute garbage. His eyes looked tired and baggy, and he smelled like beer. He apologized to me for the way that he'd been acting recently, and he told me that he knew that I knew about the almost proposal, because he had talked to his friend Mike, and Mike told John that his girlfriend Tara had told me everything. He basically said to me that he had the whole thing planned out. He was going to propose, and Tara and Mike would take pictures. Then we'd go back to a romantic, more expensive room in our hotel, which Mike and Tara ended up staying in that night to make sure that I wasn't aware of the fact that John was supposed to propose. They switched their key cards while I was walking back. Then he told me what I was afraid of. It just didn't feel right. I was looking at you, and it just wasn't what I wanted. Ouch. He told me that he had been nervous ever since he bought the ring, but that he thought that it would go away once he actually proposed. In the moment, he said that he knew that it wasn't what he wanted, and he thought that it would be better to not ask me to marry him because he knew that it wasn't what he'd want in the long run. So at this point, I'm in hysterics, as I pretty much know that this is the end of the relationship. I tried to be calm and rational about it, but there was one point where I was crying so hard that I literally got down on my knees, put my head in his lap while he sat on the couch, and just kept incoherently saying please in between sobs. Not my proudest moment, but at that moment, this man was my best friend, the future father of my children. I never, ever in a million years pictured our relationship coming to this point. He ended it with me last night because it didn't feel right, and that's all he could say to me over and over, that it just didn't feel right anymore, and I can't see myself with you. At this point, I could barely breathe, and it felt like I was having a panic attack, so I called up my mom, and she came and picked me up from our place. My poor mom, she just looked so helpless while I sat there in the car crying so hard that eventually I got a nosebleed. So I wish I could say this is the end of the story, but more has happened since last night. This morning, I'm on Facebook looking through a bunch of old pictures of John and me together, sobbing uncontrollably and sending him text after text with reasons why we should be together. And eventually, I stumble onto Mike's page through a tagged photo. He updated his status from a few hours. Wish work would send me for more than 5. Telling me that he was spending the days that he was practically ignoring days. And we live in Canada, so not very close. I freaked. I called Mike from my house phone, and when he answered, I said, "Hey, it's OP." And all he could say after a few seconds of silence was, "Oh." Basically, Mike's been covering for John while John was spending time with a girl that he's been apparently screwing for the past 6 months. I know this girl. John works with her, and she's always been really sweet to me whenever I've seen her at John's work-related events. Mike told me that John told him that he was falling in love with her. He said this after the incident in Vegas. He's been spending almost all the past 2 weeks with her. Mike then told me that he had promised not to say a word to anyone, even Tara, but he felt guilty and he was glad that I called him. He apologized and said that if I had to tell John that he told me, I could do that. That's all I know for now. I haven't bothered contacting John yet, and I don't know if Mike told him that I know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been throwing up all day. I feel disgusted, humiliated, and devastated. It actually feels like my heart is breaking in two, and I have no control. I need to get my stuff from our place. I need to find a new place. We have a dog. Who gets the dog? I love my dog. It all feels so surreal. Ugh. Then OP posted an update. Sean called me a bunch of times while I was passed out. I woke up as he was calling me again, and I kind of just answered the phone without thinking about it. He was crying and apologizing. I guess Mike told him that I knew, and saying that he was confused. He asked me where I was, and I lied and said that I was with my sister an hour away from here at her place. I asked him if he was with her, and he said yes, but that he would be home tomorrow. So could I please meet him to talk about things at our house? I said sure. I asked my mom to drive me to our place a little while ago, and I kidnapped my dog, brought her back, and I'm feeling much, much better. I'm also not meeting with him tomorrow. After reading all your comments, I feel 1,000 times better than I did earlier. So thank you. Wow, this guy was confused for 6 whole months of cheating? That's a long time to be confused. That was r/best of Redditor updates. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/Am I the Butthole, where OP discovers that his 5-year-old son isn't his. Am I the butthole for telling my mom that it's time to lawyer up? My mom moved in with me after she sold her home to avoid medical bankruptcy. Things have been rocky because my mom was always the my house, my rules type of person. I have an older brother, Scott, who helped my mom with home repairs, but Scott and my wife do not get along, so he doesn't come over much. Me and my wife went away for a weekend getaway, and Scott and my mom repainted our living room white. It was navy with built-in bookcases and pantry. The job was done so badly, and the original paint job with the bookcases cost us thousands to remodel. My wife started crying, and my mom and brother said they wanted to brighten the place up for my mom. I didn't know this at the time, but my wife called my sister-in-law, as in her brother's wife, who's a lawyer, and the contractor who originally did the work on our living room remodel. My wife is getting ready to file a lawsuit against my mother and Scott, and has already handed my mom a legal eviction notice. That's deserved, and I back it 100%, because this paint job was so terrible, and without the homeowner's permission. My mom is saying that with an eviction for property damage, she won't be able to find a place, and my wife needs to stop. My wife has installed cameras in the home and is getting the court orders in place for my mom and brother. My wife's family is paying for this, and at this point, I'm afraid to say anything because I feel like if I protest too much, the big divorce will come. Considering my wife has a lawyer in the family, I don't want to mess with that situation because it's a shit show. My brother told me that my mom has rights, and I said, oh, I guess it's time for my mom to lawyer up on her dime because I am not touching this. And it's my wife's lawyers who are pushing this through. However, I did sign off on the lawsuit. My mom said that she would contest the eviction, and I need to man up and make my wife do the right thing and drop the eviction and lawsuit. Alright, I totally agree with the top post here from External Signal. You're not the butthole for telling your mom to lawyer up, but you are the butthole for not immediately demanding that your mom and brother fix the problem, and politely asking your mom to move out, and otherwise defending your wife against your terrible family, right? Grow a spine, OP. And besides, if your mom is so desperate for a place to live, then she can go live with Scott. Then they can paint their house terrible colors all they want to. OP, I'm giving you 1 out of 5 buttholes for being kind of a pussy, but hey, at least you're for the most part supporting your wife. Your wife gets 0 out of 5 buttholes, and I'm giving your mom and your brother 2 out of 5 buttholes. Honestly, how is this the second story in the past month that I've read where someone else comes into the homeowner's home and paints a room without the homeowner's permission? People get these ideas. Am I the butthole for refusing to pay for my niece's wedding after promising to cover it? So I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I've always been close with my older sister, Emily, who's 38, and her daughter, Lily, who's 22. Emily had Lily when she was young, 16, and since she was a single mom for most of it, I've always tried to help out where I could. Over the years, I paid for Lily's summer camps, college applications, and even her first car. I did this because I love them both and always wanted to support them. A year ago, Lily got engaged to her long-term boyfriend. When they announced the engagement at a family dinner, I said that I'd be happy to help with wedding expenses. I never said I'd pay for everything, but apparently my offer was interpreted as me footing the bill for the whole wedding. Became clear when Lily and Emily started planning a big, extravagant affair. Destination wedding, 200 plus guests, you name it. I sat them down and said that I would contribute $15K, which I thought was a pretty generous amount. But they both seemed really upset. Lily said that I promised to pay for the wedding, and Emily backed her up, saying that I always supported them and this was the least I could do. Apparently, they were expecting I would cover a $50,000 wedding. I told them that was not happening. $15K was all I could give. Now, here's where things get worse. Lily and Emily stopped including me in the wedding planning entirely. I didn't hear much from them for a while, and it turns out they booked everything for the wedding thinking I'd eventually cave and cover it. Now they're in over their heads, and the wedding is just 3 months away. Emily called me, crying, saying they were going to lose deposits and that I ruined the wedding by not coming through. Lily isn't speaking to me. Here's the kicker. Emily and Lily are now saying that I'm being manipulative, offering to help them and then taking it away at the last second, making them look bad in front of the groom's family. They claim that they never would have planned something so extravagant if I hadn't promised to cover it all. But I never said that. I said I'd help. I feel like I've done more than enough over the years, but now I'm being treated like the villain for not paying for this giant wedding. Am I the butthole? Yo, OP, I wish I had an uncle that gave me $15K. My uncle, I mean, he's a nice guy and all, but he sends me a happy birthday card once a year, usually with no money in it. Again, not to begrudge him, I'm not saying he needs to. I'm a grown man here. I'm just pointing out, OP, you're extremely generous. Offering $50K goes above and beyond, so you are in the clear. Unfortunately, it sounds like all your generosity has made your sister and your niece a bit spoiled, which isn't your fault necessarily, but it is kind of a cause and effect. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your sister and niece 2 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my parents that I didn't have a kid, they did, and they need to take care of her, not me? I'm a 15-year-old girl. My parents had me when they were 18 and 19. They always made it so obvious they resented being parents so young, and added to that that they never tried to be good parents. I typically spend most of my time at my friends' houses. I don't have extended family to rely on. My other family members disowned my parents for having me so young. So my friends' houses were a positive in my life that made me feel more comfortable than being at home with my parents. My parents never did the typical parent stuff like helping with homework or showing up to support me at school. I don't think they ever attended a parents' conference for me. They ignored a lot of stuff that I needed to get signed, and I would have to get right in their face on the last day to get signatures. My birthday and Christmas have never been a big deal or a celebration. They do celebrate their wedding anniversary, but that's a them thing. When they told me 2 years ago that they were expecting a baby, it really surprised me, but then it hurt me because sometimes they said stuff that made me feel like I didn't exist. Like how they were so excited to have a baby and how they couldn't wait to be parents. A friend of my mom's did remind her of me, but then she and dad said that I was basically the too early practice run and this was the real deal. When my sister was born, they were so attentive to her that I ceased to exist completely. I got sick at school, and my school was trying to call someone to pick me up early, but they ignored the calls. And when I got home, they had taken the baby out for a family day. When they got home, they hadn't even realized the school called because they turned off their phones to enjoy family time. My mom quit her job a month after my sister was born. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and she and dad want at least one more kid. My dad leaves work early on Fridays so he can spend more time with the family, as in my mom and sister. My parents tried to have another kid for over a year, and mom isn't pregnant yet, so they're jumping to fertility treatments. They told me I need to watch my sister for a few hours every week while they're attending those appointments, and they gave me this detailed list of stuff she needs and what I'm going to do with her. I told them I won't do that and that they had her, so they need to take care of her because she's not my kid. My parents told me it's a few hours a week and it's not a huge deal. Dad told me that I need to look at it as paying back for all they did for me. I said no and told them they don't care about me, so why would I want to help them? Oh man, this was painful to read. OP, at 15, you're at that age when you can start preparing for your future. You need your own bank account, if you can pull that off, a job, and ideally to start preparing for your exit at the age of 18, when your parents will most likely kick you out entirely. You get 0 out of 5 buttholes. You're completely justified giving your parents 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for canceling all of our streaming services to hire a housekeeper without asking my husband first? I'm a 28-year-old woman, and my 30-year-old husband and I just welcomed our first baby almost 3 months ago. Understandably, it's been a huge adjustment for both of us. The baby still isn't sleeping through the night, and we're both back to work full-time. We've always split the household responsibilities 50-50. We just help where it's needed, and it's always worked out well. Lately, my husband has been doing the chores terribly, and I've had to come behind him to fix things or clean them again. For example, he cleaned the baby bottles the other night, and they were cleaned so poorly that I had to do them again. He dropped pump parts down the disposal and then ran it, ruining them. There have been several clothes that he didn't clean after a blowout that are now ruined. There are many more instances like this. I've confronted him a few times, letting him know that we all make mistakes, and I know we're both tired, but it feels like he's not even trying to do things well. He just keeps saying he's so tired and is having a hard time working and taking care of the house and baby. I do sympathize with this, as I'm also working, pumping, recovering, and taking care of the house and baby. The final straw for me was when he told me to go to sleep, and he would put up the milk that I had just pumped and finish the dishes. I was so grateful until I got up and realized the milk had been sitting on the counter and at this point was no good anymore. He said that he was sorry and he put on a show to relax for a bit before doing the dishes and fell asleep. The next day, I decided to cancel all of our streaming services, PlayStation Plus, and our theme pack passes in order to hire a housekeeper. I figured if he's too tired to do basic household chores, then a housekeeper is necessary. If he's too tired to put milk up, then he's too tired to play video games or for us to go to a theme park. We still have cable and the PlayStation games and can do other activities outside of the local theme park. He blew up at me and said that I had no right doing that, and he was furious. I thought that I was doing us a favor so we can get more sleep and not worry as much about household tasks. So, am I the butthole for hiring a housekeeper without asking? Also, down in the comments, someone asks, wait, did you cancel these things in order to afford the cleaner services? Or did you cancel it because you think it's taking up time? And OP replies, yes, I did it to afford it. So, OP, yeah, your husband is problematic because he's not pulling his own weight. However, canceling those streaming services to pay for the nanny feels less like a financial decision and more like an intentional punishment, or kind of like revenge, I guess. And that's definitely the type of decision that you should talk about as a couple together. So, I think I'm giving everyone a butthole score here. OP, I'm giving you 1.5 out of 5 buttholes, and I'm giving your husband also 1.5 out of 5. Am I the butthole for exposing my wife's cheating and not wanting anything to do with a child that isn't mine? So 2 weeks ago, I found out that my 5-year-old child isn't biologically mine. I felt so hurt and betrayed that my wife of 6 years, who I've been dating for 9, cheated on me and even got pregnant by another man. I took a paternity test without telling my wife. I immediately confronted my wife and called her a whore in my anger and many other names. She started crying and explained that she hid it because she didn't want to break up our happy family of 3. I asked her why she cheated on me, and she explained that we had a very nasty argument back in the day. So she hooked up with someone, and it was just a one-time fling, and she's been loyal to me. She said that she had doubts that I wouldn't be the father, but she never took a paternity test because she said that she was happy seeing me happy, and she didn't go with an abortion for peace of our family and didn't tell me the truth. I told her I'm divorcing her, and I don't want to be in our son's life. She started crying and begging me to not break the family, and I'm still his father, and I've been a wonderful father and husband, and I should forgive her. And don't let DNA destroy our lives, and she started begging me. I immediately left, and she's been blowing up my phone. I decided at first not to tell anyone, but in the end, I got very angry and decided to tell everyone, and everyone's pissed at my wife. Her parents said they want nothing to do with their daughter and cut contact. My sister furiously called my soon-to-be ex and cursed her out. Her brother and sister, on the other hand, said that I humiliated my soon-to-be ex and I shouldn't have told everyone and I should have kept it between us. Yesterday, her sister called me and said that I need to take her back and come back for my son. I said that I don't have a son. She got angry and started cursing me and said that I'm a weak, pathetic man. No wonder my wife cheated on me. And I'm so pathetic, I had to go behind my wife's back to take a paternity test because I'm insecure and weak that I'm giving up on my son just because we don't share blood. And I'm the reason my wife is alone and depressed. I cut her call off, and instead I called her husband and told him everything. I said that that family is full of nut jobs, and maybe it runs in their blood, so you should take a paternity test as well. And don't trust those B words. He said he's sorry on his wife's behalf, and we ended the call. Now I'm ignoring all of my wife's, and that B word's false. Man, isn't it crazy how DNA breaks up a family? Not the cheating, not the betraying the marriage, not getting knocked up by another man, but no, it's a weak man and DNA that destroys the relationship. Give me a break. Like, I love how you're weak and pathetic, but your wife cheated just because you had one argument. Man, these people piss me off. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your wife 4 out of 5 buttholes. I feel sad for the kid, though. Got destroyed because his mom is a terrible person. That was r/am I the butthole, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/off my chest, where OP discovers that his twin brother and sister are in a romantic relationship. Our next Reddit post is from Throwaway Octopus Bath. My siblings are in an incestuous relationship, but I'm the one getting shunned. I won't specify ages, but all persons are in their 20s. I have 2 younger siblings who are twins. Over the past year, their relationship has changed after a life-changing event happened to one of them. It started with subtle stuff that could almost be called normal, calling each other pet names, him complimenting her, etc. But gradually, it got more overt to the point of them kissing and making not so subtle comments that implied they were having, passionate hugging. I have a young family, and I made the decision that while their incestuous relationship continues, that my family and I will be staying away from them. The rest of the family claim to support my decision, but they won't be doing the same thing as me. Since we've made this decision, I've noticed the rest of the family withdrawing from us. We still get invited to whole family functions, and we'll go if the twins aren't attending. But we're seeing posts about game nights and barbecues the family are having that we haven't been invited to. I feel so frustrated that to my family, drawing the line at incest makes me the bad guy and results in my sons missing out on time with their cousins and aunts and uncles. The top post is, "What in the Lannister?" Our next Reddit post is from the Midnight Stylist. I'm so distraught. I never would have thought anything like this would happen. While my husband was over at my sister and her boyfriend's house helping them with something, I guess my brother-in-law caught my husband peeking on my sister while she was using the restroom, and it got physical. My husband left with a broken nose, black eyes, and his lip was pretty busted up. When my brother-in-law called me and told me what happened, he asked me if I was safe and if I needed help getting away from my husband. My husband has been on a rampage, saying that he's going to sue my brother-in-law for assault and emotional distress and make him pay the hospital bill, which wasn't even very expensive. We have great insurance, so what the hell? He also claims that he was just checking on her because after her miscarriage, he's worried about her. But my brother-in-law said that my husband had his hand down his pants while he was looking into the restroom. I've been staying with a friend of mine and my daughter. What the F do I do? Divorce? Counseling? Is my sister okay? How long has he been doing this for? Am I not good enough? Am I not satisfying him? What the F do I do? Then OP posted an update. Counseling was his idea, not mine. He begged and pleaded for me to consider counseling while I was packing mine and my daughter's bags to go stay with a friend. I'm obviously not staying with him anymore. I was just mourning the man that I thought that he was and that I've spent 10 years with. My sister and daughter will forever be my top priority to me, and I'll never put them in danger. And yes, I am of course going to believe the victim. Not once did I doubt my brother-in-law. Our next Reddit post is from Intelligent Bison. My adult kids were over last night. My oldest is Ashley, who's 34, and my middle daughter, Mary, is 33. Unfortunately, Mary lost her husband 7 years ago to suicide. Ashley and Mary joke a lot. Mary and I had a long talk, and she's decided to not date and remain abstinent in her second life. She has 2 kids and kind of a mean sense of humor. Ashley is divorced with no children. Ashley jokes too, but her jokes also come across harsh. So anyways, last night they were joking and Mary said something along the lines of, "It's the uneven eyebrows for me." And Ashley said, "It's the dead husband for me." Mary did not and watched the TV. Then Ashley was like, "Oh, to a shouting match between them. My youngest was trying to calm them down, but finally Ashley said, "No wonder your husband shot himself if he was hearing this every day." Mary looked at Ashley for a few seconds, then by where she was standing,
Built a bridge.
then grabbed Ashley's hair and started beating the crap out of her. Ashley fought back, but couldn't do much since her hair was being pulled down. I was in shock, but a part of me, as horrible as it sounds, felt like she kinda deserved it. Like their Nana said, "You play with the match, you might just start a fire." Finally, it was getting bad. My youngest was pulling the 2 apart, and I also started pulling. Ashley had a Stanley Cup that was now on the ground. When we pulled Mary off, Ashley got up. Mary grabbed the Stanley Cup and threw it at Ashley's forehead. Ashley fell down and lay there for a minute. She was conscious, but it took her a second. Her sisters took her to the doctor this morning. She has a concussion. I'll be taking care of her for a while, but that's kind of what happens. Yeah, that is what happens. Them's fighting words. And I like how Mary... It seemed like Mary took a few seconds to be like, wow, she actually said that. Do I need to teach this woman a lesson and knock her out? You know what? I think I do. Don't want to damage my wedding ring, though. Bah, 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 bah. Our next Reddit post is completed.
Damn.
I'm tired of being famous. Not what I want anymore. I've been out of the spotlight recently, but I've been doing this for over a decade now. Tours, albums, etc. It's exhausting, and I don't know if I'm ready to go back. I still love making music, but I used to love performing and interacting with fans. Now I feel like I'm trapped. I know a lot of people dream about being in my position, but I've been just so burnt out. I wish I could walk down the street without feeling like everyone is watching me. I want to go to the grocery store without a hoodie and sunglasses, pretending I'm someone else just to avoid being spotted. The constant pressure to be perfect, always on, always performing, it's exhausting. Don't get me wrong, I'm incredibly grateful for everything, but damn, the personal cost feels so heavy. Having a real conversation with someone outside the industry feels impossible. Everyone is either in it for the clout or some connection. It's hard to tell who's genuine, and that's a lonely place to be. Lately, I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd never gotten famous. Would I be happier? More grounded? I guess I'll never know, but I can't help but think about it more and more lately. Then, beneath that, we have a similar story from actually a normal person, which can give some empathy. Unspecific Direction writes, I'm not famous in any way, shape, or form, but I was invited by a friend to go to a smaller, more isolated town in China that doesn't normally get tourists. And I had one of the strangest experiences of my life. I'm a very white, decent-looking blonde woman, and people were taking pictures of me everywhere. As soon as we left the hotel, someone would take pictures of me. Either me ordering food at a food court, walking up to me in the park and stealing a selfie, etc. I
I
cannot
crossed the bridge.
enough how weird that feels.
Cool.
At first, you think it's kind of fun and flattering. Then, after walking for a whole day and you're sweaty, tired, and grungy, you start to get annoyed. That builds up and you get paranoid, which makes you more tired and exhausted. People think you're special, but inside, you feel like you always have. Like you're a normal person doing normal things. After 2 weeks of this, I was happy not to have to take another picture ever again, and not to have people staring. And I'm not even famous. I get to go home and say bye-bye to a surreal vacation into stardom. I cannot imagine that being my life. It lost its novelty quickly. Money and fame doesn't shield you from feeling the pressure. I'm sorry, OP, if you're struggling. Yeah, I had a similar experience as a white guy in some rather small towns in China. I know what this second person is talking about, and I can't even imagine what OP is going for. Because whatever level of fame that I have as r/ isn't even close to this dude. I've been recognized, I think, twice, and one of those times I was wearing a name tag. Our next Reddit post is from Nevermind Me. I can't forgive my husband for what he did when our son died. I'm a 41-year-old woman, and I've been married for 21 years to my husband, who's 41, and we have several children. One of them was special needs. He was born with a genetic mutation that neither of us carry. It was just random chance. He was sick most of his life, and I was his primary caregiver. He needed nursing home level care. I had a nurse that came to help me a few days a week. My husband, his father, didn't help much at all, no matter how much I asked for help. He was always too busy or too tired and complained about back pain. Our son lived for 15 years. I carried him, took care of all of his needs, did his meds, his tube feeding, and stayed up with him at night, etc. I had to take up bodybuilding to be strong enough to transfer him to and from his wheelchair or bed or couch or anything because my husband wouldn't help. I suffered back injuries and even had to crawl on the floor at times to meet my son's needs. He still didn't help. He might change a diaper now and then win a prize for doing so. I couldn't divorce him because I couldn't have a job while also caring for our son. My son's needs got greater and greater as he got older. By the time that he died, he was on 6 seizure medications and had several machines that he had to use for part of each day. Still, he was a happy, joyful child that loved life and was a joy to be around. He was always laughing and playing and very loved by me and his siblings. When he died, we knew that it was coming. It was in the hospital with him, and he died in my arms, peacefully and not in pain. It was the worst moment of my life. An hour after he died, my husband started going on about how he wanted to spend my son's life insurance money on an expensive 4-wheeler. Yo. My husband decided that because the policy was through his work and under his name, that the money belonged to him. I hated this idea and wanted to put the money towards our house. But he spent it. All of it. He knew I didn't want that, and he told everyone that I was on hard with it, and then acted shocked when I screamed and yelled at him for spending the money. He told his family that I didn't tell him this until after, but at this point, even his family sees how awful he acted. He never helped take care of our son, and then blew all the life insurance money. To make matters worse, he tricked one of our adult sons into paying for the cremation. I paid my son back immediately when I found out. I can't forgive this man. I'm so angry beyond words. I'm also financially trapped, as I have no work history for the last 21 years. I hate this. Yo, stories like this make me understand why
So,
you'll see
do I
those
join
Netflix
you, or how does this
documentaries
work?
about a
Did
wife
you find the
or
gate?
husband. Because if I were married to this guy,
I
I'd be
just got here to
contemplating murder
Midhaven.
too. Our next Reddit post is from the
Alright, look around. You should see something that looks like a dragon skull.
My dad's friend, Andy, was
Hey, share your
At the
screen.
time, Andy was around
Live.
40. Andy was an amazing guy. He could tell a story that kept you on the edge of your seat from beginning to end, or make you snort with laughter for hours. I was living with my parents and commuting to college. My parents were going through a rough patch, so Andy came over a lot to drink with my dad in the basement and listen to him whine about my mom. My original bedroom had been turned into a sewing room for my mom after I finished high school, so I slept in the extra room in the basement. That meant that I saw a lot
thing?
of Andy. My dad frequently passed out in his chair, and Andy would come hang out in my room with me. The night that it happened was basically the same as any other night that we hung out. Something caused the mood to change, and the next thing I know, we're going at it on my bed. It was incredible. He was so gentle at it on my bed.
Alright, look around. That thing right there behind you. Looks like a giant dragon head.
That thing?
Yeah. Go over to it. Nope. Wait a minute. Look around. Hmm. It looks like a dragon head, dude. Let's go back to the village.
Hold up, I'm going up here to get a better view.
Well, it's like right outside the village.
But it's probably through that little...
No, turn around and go back to the village, dude. You're going too far because you're going up. Behind you.
I know the village is over there.
Yeah, that's it. You're heading right to it.
Do I invite you here, or I'm gonna go into yours?
You can come over to mine. Just go to. You gotta actually go to the gate.
Code.
445588.
445588.
Yeah. A lot after that. We would sometimes meet somewhere else, but it was usually in my room after my dad fell asleep. I absolutely fell in love with this man. I knew that we could never actually be together, but I couldn't stop myself. Oh, you made it. We stopped passionately
It's loading.
for 2 years. He met someone closer to him in age. She had no desire to have kids just like him. I wanted kids, which was a major reason that a real relationship never happened. And he died when I was 34. I was devastated because a part of me never stopped loving him. My dad couldn't understand why I could barely function for about a week. I couldn't tell him the truth. I knew he'd be furious, and I didn't want to ruin his memories of Andy. I found some pictures of him in the back of my dad's closet while we were packing up for him to move. They were from around the same time frame that he took my virginity. Andy's been gone so long, but seeing those pictures felt like reopening the wound. I guess I'll never really get over his death completely. I'm married now with 3 amazing children, and I'm happy. But they say that you never forget your first time, and I'll never forget that wonderful man. This top post from Cyborg Fish Daddy. Why are you so sad? Daughter, you had a friend in me. Man, I don't know if Andy was either super ballsy or if your dad was intentionally ignoring it. But sleeping with your friend's daughter while your friend is asleep in the other room is a level of obliviousness that you actually see in adult videos. Our next Reddit post is from Cultural Bag. I've been dating my boyfriend for about 2 months. We met online and get along great. He's really smart and funny, but also pretty shy. A while ago, we were at a dinner date and everything was going well up until the car ride home. He seemed a bit antsy, but I didn't think much of it. We parked outside and were headed towards the door to my apartment complex. And he stopped and made a face like he was really uncomfortable. I looked at him and saw that he had wet his pants. Wasn't a lot, but there was definitely a stain around his crotch. We kind of just stood there and looked at each other for a minute before heading inside. We got to my apartment, he ran to my bathroom and was in there for a while. When he came head home, he didn't talk to me for a few days afterwards, but then called me and tried to explain. He told me that he has a medical issue that causes him to have a weak bladder. He thought that he could make it back to my place in time, but that obviously didn't work out. He didn't go into much detail, but over the phone, it sounded like he was on the verge of tears. I reassured him and let him know that there was no issue between us. When we ended the call, he seemed in better spirits, and we're planning on seeing each other soon. Now, the issue is that seeing my boyfriend wet himself turned me on. A lot. The look on his face and seeing that small wet spot on his pants was really hot to me for some reason. I feel so bad because he has a medical condition and is obviously ashamed by it. But the embarrassment is part of what turns me on. I want to be a supportive partner to my boyfriend, but a not so small part of me is hoping that it happens again. Does it make me a bad person if I bring this up to him? Would he be willing to do it again in front of me? Well, Opie, look at it this way. Your boyfriend opened up to you, and you responded with empathy, understanding, and patience.
And horniness.
I really need and he will respond to you in the exact same way. Now, I can't say if he'll pee his pants for you, but, I'm saying you guys seem to have decent communication, so, just give it a shot. Hopefully your boyfriend doesn't get too pissed off about it. And if you're lucky, you might even get pissed on. That was r/off my chest. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit episodes every single day. Welcome to r/best of Redditor updates, where we have one of those stories that gets worse and darker with every update. Our next Reddit post comes from r/advice. I'm a 28-year-old woman and my fiance Alex is 28. He has a best friend, Danny, a girl who's 28 since they were 4. She's not like the usual Reddit BFF. She's a lovely, sweet person who has never crossed boundaries with Alex or their 2 other friends, Marcus and Daniel. The 4 of them are very close. Danny is gay and always was. She's very much a woman, but likes to dress in jeans and t-shirts and not in any feminine clothing. She's lean, tall, has short hair, and is just one of the boys in a lot of ways. This weekend was Alex's bachelor party. All 4 of them, plus 2 other of Alex's friends went along. It was a coastal town that's well known for hosting bachelor and bachelorette parties, but there's no strip club or anything. They stayed in a bed and breakfast and had scuba diving and kayaking plans. The first night went okay. Dinner, restaurant, nightclub, and then home. Last night was the issue. They did the nightclub and then headed back to the house. Marcus and Daniel, who were both single, brought back 2 girls from the nightclub and got busy in their bedrooms. The rest were drinking in the living room, but things got a bit loud, and the 2 friends started complaining that they didn't get to go to a strip club and never got to see some TNA. They were blaming their wives and calling their wives names. Danny told them to shush, as it was ruining the mood, and they both thought that it would be funny if they saw Danny's body naked to make up for it. The thing is, Alex joined in, and the guys stripped her. Danny was screaming loudly, and Marcus and Daniel came running and rescued Danny and put her in the bathroom with the girls, and then had a fight with the 3 men. Then they packed up and took Danny and the 2 girls and left the other 3 at the house. Danny was hysterical, and Marcus wanted her to go to the police, but she wouldn't. She was afraid to go home, so they ended up dropping the girls off and taking Danny to her parents, which was an hour away. Marcus was at my door at 7 a.m. this morning, and he told me what happened, and that if he ever sees Alex again, he's afraid of how things could go. He told me that if he can convince Danny to press charges, he will. Then he left. Alex returned at about 3 this afternoon. He was acting normally until I told him Marcus visited. He was very nervous and tried to play down what happened as a joke that got out of hand. But I'm devastated. I heard him out, but he knew that I wasn't accepting what he was saying. I told him that Danny may be going to the police, and he got very panicked and pale. He said that she had him blocked and he wanted to go talk to her. I told him that Danny wasn't at her place because she was too afraid that he or his buddies would turn up there. I asked him to leave, and he didn't want to go, but I insisted. He was crying, saying that it was a prank that got out of hand. I heard him out only as a courtesy to our 2-year relationship. But I am done. I don't know this man, and I don't know if I should reach out to Danny or just do nothing. Marcus and I have been in constant contact, and he agrees that I have no option but to end things. I don't know where to start with canceling everything, as the wedding was in 5 weeks, but it seems trivial compared to what Danny is going through right now. Marcus is convinced that Danny is going to the police after talking to her parents, so I think that Alex is in trouble. I can't support him on this. Maybe I'm wrong because he was drunk and probably had taken other things. But this was his friend from age 4, and he did this to her. I haven't blocked Alex, but I haven't replied or picked up any of his calls. Then, the next day, Opie posted an update. I did tell my parents and my brother, and they've been wonderful. My brother brought his friend with him when he came to stay, and today, both of them packed up every bit of my ex's stuff and took it to his parents' house. My ex was there, and he just asked if that meant that I was finished with him. And my brother said yes, and did he really expect any other reaction? His father intervened and told my ex not to say anything more. He told my brother to tell me to contact him on canceling the wedding, but I'm not contacting his father ever. My parents are handling canceling the wedding, and my father got in with my cousin who's a lawyer, and he said that he's going to help and advise me as needed. I have to disentangle myself from my ex on leases, bank accounts, savings, and other stuff. although my brother made me transfer all of my money from joint account savings and daily accounts to my own account. It's a mess. I tried to call Danny, but she isn't up for speaking to anyone, so I just texted her that I was there for her and that I had broken up with Alex. She hasn't replied, and I don't expect that she will. She's in a bad way, apparently. Daniel spent 3 hours with me today. There's a lot going on, but I'm afraid to say too much for fear of damaging any court cases. I just want to add that there are 2 videos of the incident. One by Jeb, one of the 2 friends who assaulted her, and a lot of it is chaotic, but the last part is clear and telling, apparently. The owners of the rental house apparently have gotten involved. They have footage too, but I can't say more. When Marcus left me, he went to both of the other guys' wives and told them what happened. Jeb's wife has been very helpful, apparently, and she's split from him. The other guy's wife, too, has left him. Daniel told me that before Danny found her style, she had long hair and dressed feminine and was stunningly beautiful, and all 3 of them were in love with her as teens. Alex took her rejection very personally, apparently. And Daniel says that Alex was angry and bitter for a couple of years, but he hid it from her. They thought that he had gotten over it, but Daniel thinks that this smacks of revenge against her. It's scary if this is true. I've received hundreds of texts from Alex. He told me that his father told him to stop texting me, but he can't. I haven't replied or blocked him based on advice I've been given. Then, 3 days later, OP posted an update. I got a call from Danny. Daniel has been ever present, and I'm guessing it was because he knew that she was going to call. There's a lot more to the story. The first night was normal, as I said, but on Saturday, Alex, Jeb, and the 3rd friend decided not to go scuba diving with Danny, Daniel, and Marcus. Danny was feeling hungover and gave up after an hour and went back to the Airbnb. She walked into the living room to find all 3 guys engaging in sexual acts with those 2 women. Jeb shouted at her to get out, as this was costing them a fortune. The women were escorts. She left and went back to the boat and only told Marcus what she saw. When they all went back later, Alex told her not to tell me because it was just his last bit of freedom. She told him that she was disgusted with him and that he isn't free. She told him that she would have to think about what to do. It convinced her to stay another night, because at that point, he and Daniel had met the 2 girls from the club. And if Danny wanted to leave, then he wouldn't be able to hook up with them, because Daniel would have to take Danny because he was her ride and there wasn't public transportation in this tiny town. So, Alex cheated, as did the other 2 guys. Marcus told their wives that morning, but not me. He was going to tell me in stages, as he knew that I was in shock. The actual assault went farther than Marcus told me as well. And while Alex hadn't actually done anything beyond pulling off her clothes, unlike the other 2, he stood by and watched and did nothing to help her. She said she thought that Alex had taken shrooms earlier, but couldn't be sure. Marcus and Daniel did rescue her, but things had already escalated. Danny went to the cops immediately and she got to her parents. The Airbnb owners had also gone to the cops independently when they saw the footage. All 3 men are facing the consequences of their actions. Danny told me she was sorry that she didn't leave to tell me immediately like she wanted to. She's very distraught still, and I didn't want to make things worse for her. I don't think that I'm needed for any legal proceedings, so I finally blocked Alex and his parents. The wedding is canceled, and I'm just starting to disentangle myself from Alex on bank accounts and such. Here's my issue. I'm feeling very angry towards Marcus. It feels like he didn't really care about me. He stopped Danny from telling me about the cheating just so he could shack up with this girl that he met at the club. He apparently feels guilty because if they had left, Danny wouldn't have been attacked. He didn't do me the courtesy of telling me that Alex cheated that morning like he did with the other 2 wives. It's not like he was sparing my feelings because my ex assaulted another woman was a pretty damn bad thing to hear. He didn't tell me the full extent of the attack. Danny is still unsure whether or not Alex was just waiting for his turn, or if all he was going to do was watch. I should have been told that ASAP. Not from Danny, because that conversation was incredibly difficult for her. Daniel didn't know about the escorts at all, and didn't know Marcus hadn't shared the full story of what they saw when they burst in. Daniel has been my rock. I need some perspective here. Is it okay to be angry at Marcus? Then, 10 days later, OP posted an update. First of all, Danny and I have bonded. She and I talk every day and message constantly. I didn't expect that, but it's truly wonderful. She said that she needs a good straight friend right now, and honestly, she's a great person and has been a huge support to me despite what she's been going through. I told her I posted on Reddit because I felt guilty that to tell my story I had to tell hers, but she's okay with it. She's thinking of waiving her right to anonymity when the trial comes because she wants everyone to know that she was R-worded and by whom. Danny has quit her job and has moved to her parents full-time and is in therapy. She's just about okay. Surviving still rather than living, but she's so strong and amazing. Justice moves slowly here, so there isn't too much of an update on the legal process. Marcus was told, however, that he would not face charges for assault for attacking the two guys who were actively attacking Danny. Daniel gave me space, like I asked, and he's a truly good guy. There's nothing romantic there at all, though. I'm not in a state to be dating, and I won't be for a very long time. He's just a good guy. I got a letter in the mail from Alex. He said that he held out hope while I hadn't blocked him, but once I did, he was distraught. He told me that he doesn't want me to freak out by turning up in person, and I know that wouldn't look good for him anyway, but he just wanted to tell his side of the story. He said that he was pressured into doing stuff with the escorts, and he only got a BJ. The other two were really pressuring him to do more, but he didn't, and he says that he regrets even doing what he did. He admits that he was angry at Danny because she said that either he would tell me about the cheating or she would, but he knew that he was totally in the wrong. He knew that I would dump him for the cheating, so he took everything he could get his hands on. He's not even sure what he took, and while he does remember pulling off Danny's shoes, he doesn't remember much else. How convenient for him. I bet Danny remembers. So he was just peer pressured and drunk and drugged up, and he did nothing wrong at all, basically. I was just disgusted to read this. His total lack of accountability is just sickening. I'm not responding to him ever. Any future mail from him goes unopened to the trash. I'm in therapy, but it's early days, and I'm not seeing progress yet. Then after this, OP writes a pretty long paragraph where she just describes grappling with her feelings with Marcus, and she's not really sure how to handle her relationship with him. She finishes by saying, I'm visiting Danny on the weekend that should have been my wedding. We're going to have a Lord of the Rings marathon, and her mother is making cheesecake. My own family has been wonderful in every way, but Danny is truly why I'm still standing. Ooh, that was a brutal read. It's one of those stories that got darker and darker with each new sentence, but at least I guess you could say the only good thing in this story is that finally people are facing justice for their actions. Danny is also amazingly strong. It's just really interesting how this story has really awful people, but then also really, really good, pure-hearted people, and it makes you wonder, how did these evil people become friends with such good-hearted people in the first place? Our next Reddit post is from r/Am I the Butthole? Am I the butthole for refusing to have Halloween with my family? As the title says, this happened on Halloween. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and 5 years ago, my parents wanted to go to my sister's house for Halloween. At the time, I was still living with them, and I wanted to go to a party that a friend was hosting. But my parents were adamant that I go with them instead because they wanted us to all go together. I still wanted to go to my friend's party, and my parents suggested a compromise in which I go to my sister's party first, then my friend's. I figured it couldn't hurt to do both, so I agreed since I liked helping my nephew with trick-or-treating. And that year, I was wearing an inflatable ninja costume that I was really eager to have fun in. Well, I was ready and waiting in the costume for hours. And by the time we finally took the kids out, most houses stopped giving candy, and there was hardly anybody walking around. And we only went around one block. That's it. Then, when I wanted to go to my friend's house, my parents guilted me into staying because they needed me as a designated driver. I would have driven them home first and then gone to my friend's party, but my parents just kept drinking and refused to leave. So I lost out on going to the other party and cussed my parents out for making me miss it and not being able to enjoy my Halloween. They just said that it was too late, and what could they do about it? They didn't even attempt to make it up to me. I refused to speak with them later. So they confronted me, and I said that I didn't even want to look at them because they broke their promise. Then I said that unless they could somehow pull a new Halloween party with all my friends out of their butts, then they had completely screwed me over. I left before they could say anything else to me.
That's how you're
My
getting around
friends
so
were nearly
fucking
as upset
fast.
as I was.
What?
But my sister told me
riding
off
that
and
thing.
said that I was callous because she wanted me there.
Oh.
And ever since that year, I've Halloween with friends.
Press down on the D-pad.
Why?
Keyboard.
And they wanted me to drive them. Used and said that all they wanted was a designated driver. And they'd already screwed me over
Press
before
X.
and didn't even attempt to make it better back then. And I didn't want to just sit around watching them get
Come over
drunk with the
here.
only
You may
way
have to
highlight helping
rebuild the
kids trick or treat
stables on yours.
farmyard party. But my sister called me up on Monday, furious at me because my parents were pulled over on their way home and got a DUI. And this never would have happened if I had driven them. And now, most of the family is pissed at me. So, am I the butthole for refusing to drive my parents to my sister's house for Halloween because of something they did 5 years ago? The verdict on this one is predictably not the butthole. But then, 5 days later, Opie posted an update. My sister and her husband spotted my post a few days after I made it and called me. My sister said that she's ashamed of herself, and now she sees my point of view. At first, she was furious that I made the post. But her husband chewed her out for not ever sticking up for me because he really had no idea that my parents treated me this badly. And after they both read the comments, she realized how toxic this whole dynamic was. At first, she blamed it on the stress of being a mother. But quickly, she took that back and said that she really has no excuse for never considering me in these situations. We talked, and she remarked how I've always loved Halloween ever since I was a little kid. And she let my parents ruin it for me that day 5 years ago, even though she knew about the promise they broke. The conversation got pretty emotional, and she apologized heavily because she had put the blame on me when she was the one who let our parents drink and drive year after year. She gave me some more details. My mother is actually the one who got the DUI. I assumed it was our father, but he apparently was so wasted that he was on the verge of passing out and pretty much did as soon as he was in the car. Our mother insisted that she was okay to drive and then ran a red light. That's how the cops spotted her and she was arrested. The car was impounded and our father was escorted home by police to sleep it off. He woke up with a raging hangover and a temper to match. Then he took it all out on my sister over the phone, and she, in turn, took it out on me. Our mother has her license suspended. The car cost them $600 to get out of impound, and
Hey,
both
what's
of
up? How you doing? Appreciate the follow.
hell, me and my sister all ganged up on them for what
I'm not buying
they've
your
been.
artwork.
Our father fought us
I got a
every step
logo.
of the way. But
Appreciate
we
it though.
made it
Appreciate
clear
the
they've been
follow. I'll
putting
give you a follow
pure
back.
alcoholism above everything else, and we're tired of it because there have been a lot of broken promises from them all around. Our mother promised to do better, but our father just stayed silent and wouldn't make eye contact with any of us. Things are tense now, but I'm glad my sister is finally on my side of all this. I like how this is supposed to be OP's fault instead of them just getting a cab or getting an Uber. They're really risking their lives because they don't want to spend, I don't know, $30 on an Uber ride. That was r/Best of Redditor updates. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/Am I the Butthole, where OP's brother tries to have his children taken away from him. Am I the butthole for not wanting to accept my brother's apology after he lied to Child Protective Services? I have no idea what to do right now. I'm so angry with my brother that I now keep my front door locked
What are we doing?
24/7 so him and his wife don't just walk in. So let's start with the fact that my brother
can't
is clean and
teleport over
sober
there.
and
How
has
do I
been
teleport?
married with 2 boys.
Build the teleporter.
I don't have a spot over there.
It's legal where I live.
I
Oh.
don't.
He's
What are
issue fact believing the only way to
the
properly
trees the telepoint spots?
and even the smallest
No.
idea of using drugs is frowned upon.
You see the thing you're standing
I have
on?
2 kids He keeps joking
Yeah, I
this
know
past
the little
month
thing.
that he was going to call Child Protective Services because he doesn't like the way that I parent. Well, last Sunday, I got a call from a social worker trying to find my house so that he could come and see if my kids were doing okay. The call came with a laundry list of complaints, which the caseworker determined were completely unfounded, and this whole thing was a waste of time. The caseworker asked my oldest child questions to see if anything was true, and he could see in her face that she was confused as to why he would ask such weird things. Well, in my confusion, I called my mother and sister to tell them what had just happened. I was in the process of explaining to them what had gone down when my brother and his wife walked through the door. I didn't want to ask questions, but I couldn't stop it from coming out of my mouth. The way this man shrugged his shoulders and said, "Yeah, I did it," I immediately lost my mind. I told him to get out of my house and that I never wanted to see his face again. He and his wife quickly shuffled out of the house while I went to go cry in a room away from the kids. 4 days later, the case was being closed. CPS said there was nothing in our homes or about us that would or should cause them to be involved. Now, my brother and his wife are trying to message me and guilt me into forgiving him. But there isn't a fiber of my being that has forgiveness for him left. Am I the butthole? No. Getting CPS called on you when there's nothing wrong with your family whatsoever is an act of war. What was his end goal? To have your kids literally get taken away from you as a punishment for doing a completely legal thing in your state that he just doesn't happen to approve of? That is disgusting behavior. OP, I'm completely on your side. I would never breathe the same air as that scumbag. OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your brother 4 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for telling my sister that I don't know if I love her after finding out about her 5-year affair? My sister, who's 32, moved in with me because she got pregnant 5 months ago from what she claimed was a one-night stand. I love my sister, so of course I took her in. My husband is overseas for 6 more months, so it was nice to have her around because I care about her very much. On Monday, I came home and saw my sister and a strange woman in a screaming match on my doorstep. I obviously didn't know what was happening, but I saw the woman poking my pregnant sister's shoulder, so I intervened. I sent my sister inside, and she begged me to send the woman away. I didn't understand what was going on, but I wanted the altercation to end for everyone's sake, so I told the woman as much. Then the woman started screaming at me, asking me if I was also sleeping with her husband. I was like, huh? And then the woman basically revealed that my sister had been having an affair with her husband for 5 years. She printed out everything: chats, photos, emails, receipts. It was disturbing to see, and I didn't want to go through it all. However, a few things were established. 1, my sister knew about his wife. She knew that she was the mistress and liked it. 2, the wife was a stay-at-home mom to their 4 kids, one of whom has a severe disability from a car accident. 3, her husband knew about my sister's pregnancy and even took her on a baby moon to celebrate it. 4, the affair had been going on the entire time, with my sister believing he would eventually leave his wife for her. 5, my sister had fully embraced the role of being the other woman and was emotionally invested in their relationship, despite his repeated lies about leaving his wife. I told the woman I was very sorry and that obviously I didn't know. But I asked her to leave because this was going nowhere, and I didn't want the neighbors to call the cops. She was furious, but gave me her number on a post-it, begging me not to let her husband stay at my house. I assured her that no man was stepping foot in my home. My sister was begging me not to believe the woman, calling her a vindictive ex-wife. I told her, all right then, let's just look up the marriage online. Let's see if a motion for dissolution of marriage was ever submitted. Me and my sister fought hard. My sister kept saying I would never understand and that they love each other, but he just couldn't leave his wife, blah, blah, blah. I called her dumb and naive. The next day, I told her she could stay here because I didn't want her to become a financial burden on that other woman in any way, but I also told her that right now, I didn't want to engage with her. My sister asked me if I still loved her, and I told her, honestly, right now, I can't say that I do. I will always help my nephew and not endanger you. But I can't like you because you've shown me that you're not a trustworthy person. I told her that I didn't trust her not to try anything with my husband, and I didn't trust her with anything at all. So I made her sign a tenants agreement. She's been begging me to forgive her, and I told her there's nothing to forgive. I just don't know who she is anymore. OP, while reading this, I was thinking in the back of my mind that it's very logical to, maybe you love her, maybe you don't, but the conclusion I would come to is just, I don't know who this person is anymore. So I'm very delighted to see that you came to the exact same conclusion at the end of the story. Because, yeah, your sister is, well, dumb and naive. You said it yourself. She's very dumb. Also, she's a liar. I mean, how could you believe a single word that comes out of her mouth for the rest of your life? OP, you get 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your cheating sister 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for being the reason that my grandparents refused to help my dad anymore and laughing when he and his wife complained about it? I'm a 16-year-old guy, and my mom died when I was 7. She left me an inheritance that my dad was put in charge of. The money was supposed to be for my future, and nobody was supposed to touch it unless I really needed it, and it was pretty specific. I read through the documents 5 months ago when all this went down. My dad got married again when I was 10, and he has an 8-year-old stepdaughter and now a 4-year-old daughter with his wife, Louise. My half-sister was diagnosed with a rare condition when she was 2. It was always clear that something was wrong, but they had a really hard time figuring out what it was. Doctors would say she'd be fine when she was older. The condition isn't life-threatening. Like, she won't die from it, but it could potentially leave her permanently disabled in a bad way. A few months ago, they found out about this treatment that's hard to get into, but it was expensive. There is a way to get help paying for it, but that takes longer. So my dad decided that he would use the inheritance that my mom left me to pay for it. He tried asking me, but he was going to do it anyway, and when I told him no, he told me as much. Then he shamed me for saying no, for putting college before the health of my half-sister. Louise was in the room with us, but she wasn't talking before I said no. She asked me, how could I look at my half-sister at the life that she'll have if we don't do anything and say no? I told my dad that I would never forgive him if he took my money. After I read my mom's will, I brought up the fact that the money was only for my needs. He told me that my mom was dead and he hoped that she would understand. I told him that I never would. He told me I'd understand when I'm older. I told him I hated him, and I told Louise she better never speak to me again, because I found it disgusting she would encourage stealing from me and taking my mom's money. I told my grandparents what my dad did. They're my mom's parents, but had stayed friendly with Dad, and there were times that they would help him. They shared stuff with him all the time, and Grandpa would look at Dad's car for free if anything was wrong. That all stopped when I told them. Dad couldn't figure out why until he confronted them about it last week. They told him that he had some nerve stealing from me, taking their daughter's money and spending it on his child. My dad was mad that they didn't understand and support his decision. He confronted me about it and complained about what I did. I laughed and told him that I warned him and I would never forgive him for it. He asked how I got to be so heartless and selfish. I told him I would never forget what he did. Am I the butthole? Yeah, you have every right to be mad, OP. You literally got robbed by your own father. If you and your grandparents aren't doing it already, you should go talk to a lawyer and potentially sue him to get the money back. I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving your dad 3.5 out of 5 buttholes. Am I the butthole for not telling my boyfriend that I could understand his language the whole time? I'm an 18-year-old girl, and I've been with my 19-year-old boyfriend for 2 years now. This all started when we met 3 years ago. I was new at our high school, and he introduced me to his friend group, which had mostly French speakers. I've never been confident with my French speaking due to insecurity about my accent, but I can understand the language perfectly. I was just too embarrassed to let them know because I was scared they would ask me to try to speak French with them. I got really close with this friend group, and my boyfriend and I got together after 1 year. Me not speaking French had never been a problem because he would speak English around me and always made sure his friends did the same. And it went on for so long that I just didn't have the heart to tell him that I could understand them anyways. Problem started in university. We both got a house off campus together, but my boyfriend was always coming back really late. I had convinced myself that he was probably occupied with university stuff, but the other night I heard him talking on the phone to one of his French friends about being hooked up with 3 different girls at the same time, and I was completely baffled. I confronted him, but instead of him being apologetic, he got mad that I could actually understand what he was saying. I tried to come up with an excuse and say that I managed to pick up the language after all the time we've been together, but he doesn't believe me since he never speaks French around me, and he said that he can't trust me anymore. He's staying at a friend's house right now, and I don't know if I'm at fault here for not telling him I understand French, or if the real problem is him cheating. Am I the butthole? And if yes, what do I do? You know, honestly, OP, for hiding this secret, I do think he deserves, I don't know, like 0.5 out of 5 butthole scores because it feels honestly kind of duplicitous. However, clearly the problem here is the cheating, right? This is not really up for debate. So while you definitely shouldn't have kept this secret from him, you are not the problem in this relationship. It's so disrespectful to not only cheat, but also flaunt that fact in front of you and then try to paint himself as the victim afterwards and make it seem like it's your fault. Am I the butthole for telling my daughters that I was moving on with the separation anyways? I found out that my husband cheated on me when I was pregnant. Both times. I only found out 3 months ago, and until then, we were a very happy family, and my husband is a great dad. Our daughters are 14 and 16. They know the reason that we're getting a divorce and that he had 2 affairs with 2 women, but not all the details. They're opposed to the idea of a divorce anyway, and they threatened to never see me again if I went through with it because the offense happened so long ago. I understand that they don't want change and their lives are in upheaval. I know all that, but I just can't be with them anymore. I can't even look at him. Nothing is working. Therapy is not working, and my kids are adamant about never seeing me again. I haven't seen them in 2 months. We rent a small studio apartment now, and we live every other week in the house with the girls, and the others live in the studio apartment. The girls refuse to stay with me at the house during my weeks, but they stay in the studio with my husband. We bought our house in 2003, and it's quadrupled in value, so we're going to be able to have 2 decent homes, even if it's not as big and beautiful as this one. But it's not like our daughters will live in bad conditions. Before this, they were close to both of them equally. Now, they only love him. Last week, they made it clear that if I filed for divorce, they will never see me again. I said I was never going back to him, and they said I made my choice and they'll never see me again. Your daughters sound awful, OP. You're going through what's probably the worst moment in your life, and they choose to just abandon you. And instead of supporting you, they're supporting the guy who.
Alright, dude, I gotta go.
I'm giving the rest of your family 3.5
You will
out of
be back
5.
on later on today.
I the butthole
My
for
big-
choosing my family.
I forgot first.
Always chose my brother.
I don't know
I
how
love this my entire life.
long I'm
As a
gonna be
child,
at
I
work.
never
I work at
wanted
4:30.
to. That
Alright.
peace.
Probably-
And it
probably
also
won't be
did
there
make
long.
me feel like garbage about myself.
Alright, I'll catch you later.
Child.
Alright, later.
I show up.
Come on.
You know just how time consuming it can be.
Well, lay down.
And now we meet the new Reese's Big Cup with chocolate lava, which obviously comes from the Reese's volcano that flows with ooey gooey, melty chocolate lava. I'm no geologist, but that looks pretty darn good.
Saving money feels right. Just like when things are packed tidy and tight. Get auto insurance that fits your budget and your needs. Save up to 10% when you bundle auto and renter's insurance. Get a quote today.
Let's play. Let's play.
Rated PG-13.
Thanks to QuickBooks Business Tax Deduction features, I found $6,000 in tax savings. And I have access to live experts to help me.
Searching for music for your next video? Then you need to check out Artlist. With amazing new music added daily and one simple license that covers all your creative needs.
Connection established.
Battleship sunk.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy submarine spotted. Attention. Reporting the target position.
Enemy heavily damaged.
check this out. I'm gonna show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, $118 for car insurance. That's how much I was paying, okay? I picked up the car a few months ago, and watch this, ready?
Having an e-commerce store and a brick and mortar store, keeping track of inventory was a headache. Being able to use Shopify in-store and online, it kind of made that seamless for me. We can actually work on other things, more important things, because Shopify does it all for me.
I pulled the Fred Warner. I pulled.
I get down.
If it's written in the stars, close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of your heart. If it's written in the stars, close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of your heart. If it's written in the stars, close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of your heart. If it's written in the stars, close your eyes and listen to the rhythm of your heart.
I get down.
Might as well just give up. You can't get back up unless you got somebody. I already tried.
One of you has seen the light. I am surprised. I had been prepared for more resistance.
This one's infectious. You better watch out.
He feels no pain. The perfect machine for this endeavor.